This is Lake Valley, a city I left abandoned for 2,706 days before telling all the city's inhabitants that their city was wrong and deciding to level neighborhood after neighborhood after neighborhood. And if you thought that the last build was very invasive, it doesn't hold a candle to what we're going to do today. Because before we can implement our whole citywide transit network, we're going to need to rid ourselves of these monuments because they have a significant impact on traffic flow and overall city functionality. These two in particular are holding the whole house of cards that is Lake Valley together. The one on the left is the Hadron Collider, which eliminates all education requirements throughout the entire city, and the one on the right is the Medical Center, which eliminates all healthcare requirements. And the result is an incredibly educated, healthy, happy, and wealthy citizenry. So what happens if we remove these? A lot of very bad things if we aren't careful. So in today's episode, we're going to get rid of these monuments, and if we're successful and don't completely kill the city, we'll get rid of the rest of the monuments and unique buildings here as well and redevelop this entire area. We'll also spend some time on our second skyline and improve the way that this looks as well. And by the end, we'll put ourselves in a good position to begin our transit builds. And if you like playing with monuments, hit the like button. And if you avoid them like the plague, hit the like button for that too, and let me know what you do in the comments. Or if you'd prefer, drop an emoji that reminds you of stress, because I'm already stressed thinking about today's episode. And without any further ado, let's jump right in. So I know what you're thinking. Just turn these off and move on. But it's not that simple. If we take a look at this building, for instance, this is the Collider. It's just an educational building. You would think that it just provides education to everybody, but it doesn't do that. It actually removes the need for education from everybody. So we have almost no one eligible to go to elementary school. We actually have nobody eligible to go to high school. Same thing with the university. 3 people in a city this size. It's kind of wild. And with the healthcare system, it's roughly the same thing. No patients in here. So this does have a capacity. But when we take a look, we have no sick citizens. Our death care is in a great place. We have our child health care and elder care all the way maxed out to the top. Everyone's living as long as they can live. So when we get rid of these, we're going to need to have places for people to go. We have absolutely no elder care in the city. Same thing with child care. And with our normal health care, we have just a little bit. But the issue goes beyond that. We also have to look at our land value. And when we take a look at this, we can see that generally across the city, land values are pretty good. We're at 73. It's certainly not where it was when we had the Eden project open, but it's still pretty darn good. So you would think that we've got parks and plazas everywhere. Well, friends, we do not. You can tell which parts of the city are the oldest by the number of parks that they have. And what you can see is we've got a couple of parks over here. We've got a number in this area. This is clearly where we began the city. And then after we placed these in our downtown, we just gave up on placing parks. In fact, if you look over here, the parks that we have, it's a parking lot. It's a medium parking garage. So we are going to need to add parks throughout the entire area. We're going to need to add an elementary school system, a high school system, a healthcare system, and then we're going to need to remove those buildings and see what happens. All right, so let's get moving. And I think we're going to start out with getting rid of the Collider. So we need to think about our entire educational system. We're going to start out with our elementary schools. The capacity of this is 300, and we've got them every other block in a couple of locations. So we're going to want to spread some of these out. So I'm going to move this one over here, and then we're going to add another elementary school in this area. And you can tell where you need elementary schools. That's the light blue. And this is about the distance that we're going to try to keep them apart from one another. And then there are going to be schools like this one right here. It's too close to the other two, so we will move that closer to this area down here. So now I'm going to go through and just place a couple of these. I honestly have no idea how many that we're going to need. We don't have a need for elementary right now, so it's hard to tell. But I do know that every neighborhood will need to have some sort of access. And then in our downtown area, we're going to grab this high capacity elementary school. I want to turn on the contours so we can see what's going on. Obviously, we disrespected the topography over here. We'll place this here, and I'm going to add a new road in. There we go. It's not the most beautiful thing in the world, but it'll do the trick. Now we've got to think about our high school capacity. And oh my goodness, I think we legitimately have no high schools in the entire area. So while this is off, let's look. University, no university capacity either. This is going to be a big problem for us. In one sense, maybe this is easier than having a couple of schools sprinkled in because we can spread these out as we see fit. I am going to add a high capacity high school in this downtown area. I'll place that right here. So this high school will serve the downtown and this little area right here. And then basically I'm thinking one here, one here, one here, and one here. Second thoughts, we are going to place a high capacity high school over here. Eventually we are going to increase the density in this area. So we will place this high school here and it'll provide a fair amount of coverage through here. Obviously, I don't know if this is enough. It's 7,800. We can easily tell because it just gives a million capacity for the collider. Next is the university, and I think we're just going to build a high capacity university in the downtown area. What I'm thinking that we're going to do is add this in this general area. I'd like to build a more formal neighborhood back here. For now, I'm going to run this back here. We'll add a road and we'll force that. I'll need to remove a node. We've got an extra node now. And I want to spin this building around. And then this is a high capacity college. We're going to need some sort of parking back here. So we'll add one of our new parking facilities. And I just want to double check the terrain here. Yeah, that's going to work. It's not wonderful, but it's fine. And lastly, before we turn off the collider, we're going to need to take a look at our parks. And just looking at this, I can already tell that we're going to have some significant issues. Obviously, we're okay down here. We've got unique buildings to really anchor our land values. But the further out that we get from our starting square, I'm not certain that this is a starting square, but just based on what I see, I'm assuming that it is. We've got some issues. So obviously, we've got to give everyone their favorite park. We've got to get some dog parks throughout here. We'll also add in some small playgrounds and other sorts of recreational facilities. But I want to blanket these. Any areas that are red are going to be the very first to despawn and go under. So we don't want that to occur. Here is our IT cluster district again. So rather than putting in a bunch of playgrounds and stuff that don't make sense, we will add some of our plazas. And we could actually add in some of our plazas and promenade pedestrian parks. That would work as well, like a food truck plaza. We'll take out a skyscraper for that. That makes perfect sense. This is a tough crowd. It doesn't seem to matter how many parks I give them. They're not happy. Oh, that was it. That was that tipped us over the edge. They just needed a Paradox Plaza. All right, I'm not sure that this is going to be perfect, but we've added parks all over the place. And I think our coverage is adequate at this point to turn off this building. There is one bit of fear in me though. So we're going to want to go into 81 tiles mod, and I've enabled the enable electricity transmission without power lines and enable water, sewage, and heat transmission without pipes. This is temporary. I'm going to disable this eventually. But here's the thing. I've got to let this thing simulate for a while to normalize. And as buildings abandon, the power lines could become disconnected and it could take out a whole neighborhood with it. So we want to avoid that if we can. So now that we have this supposedly ready to go, we're going to turn this off. I am going to get this to our maximum simulation speed to see what happens. And we'll be right back. All right, now we're seeing what I was worried about. We're having all of these little markers show up, showing that our land values are too low. So this was artificially boosting up our land values. This could lead to a massive drop in our population. Now, when I removed the Eden project, I dealt with this as well. And the way that I resolved it is just to let it sim and lose a bunch of population. And I don't know that we've ever recovered. So this might just be something that we need to let go for a little while. So we're going to let this go. We'll take a look at the land value map and see what happens. I think from an education standpoint, at least from what I see, it seems like we have more than enough capacity. We don't need to worry about that. If anything, it's actually helped us from a budgetary standpoint because this building is so expensive. So we'll just take a look at this and keep an eye on the population because things are about to happen. Finally, no more land value complaints. That is the primary thing that I was waiting for. And we let it run for, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes. And for the most part, the city seems okay. Obviously, our land values have plummeted. That was something that was a known 10 or 15 minutes ago, but our population has mostly stabilized. We lost about 1,500 people. 1,500 people said, this city's not worth it. People have to go to school. My land values have plummeted. It's not worth my time. And that's fine. And did you see this? I bet you thought this was commercial demand, but it's actually Philip's hunger meter. Philip was trying to take a simple trip from here to here and had to walk all the way around the mountain because no one implemented transit. Thankfully, Philip's been taking his health seriously and has the stamina to get around the mountain. But fitness isn't just working out, it's also what you put in your body, which is where today's video sponsor, Factor, comes in. Fitness starts with food, and Factor makes it possible to achieve your daily goals through nutritious, purposeful eating. All of their meals are dietitian approved and absolutely delicious, which is why I've personally been buying meal boxes since the start of the year. And making their meals is simple. Factor cuts out the stressful meal planning and extensive prep work, so meals come together in minutes. Meals are pre-prepared and ready to eat in 2 minutes or less. That's faster than takeout. And with a rotating weekly menu of more than 27 meal options and 33 add-ons like smoothies, keto shakes, desserts, and more, you'll never be short on variety. Philip is so excited about Factor, he's taken a bow for them. And if you want to eat as well as Philip, use my link or go to go.factor75.com and use code POGCPPAPR50 for 50% off your first box. Once you click, my link will live update to count up the purchases. And a huge thank you to Factor for sponsoring today's video. Let's get back to it. And now that our education system is in check, let's get rid of the collider and move on to our healthcare system. And look at that. Everyone loves that. I don't really understand why, but apparently it's a good thing to see that building go away. So now we've got to think about our healthcare coverage. And this one's going to be a little bit more nuanced than the education coverage because it's not just healthcare that we're worried about. We're also worried about our child and elder care. And I guess maybe it is similar to health education in that there is a kind of a bit of a chain there. So our child care is going to have an impact on the number of births that we have, elder care on the lifespan of our Sims, and then healthcare, the number of people that just get sick and die randomly. So we've got to cover all of our bases. I'm going to start out with childcare, and we have no coverage anywhere, which in some ways is kind of a blessing because it gives us the ability to just place these wherever we see fit, so without any need to worry about what used to be. And if we are min-maxing for child healthcare, I don't think I did a great job, but I do think I covered everywhere fairly adequately. We're going to switch gears and go to elder care, and it looks like the coverage of this is actually much smaller. So that's unfortunate. It means we have to have more of them, and they're a larger asset. But we'll do what we can to try to min-max this one because I do not want to have a whole bunch of these. All right, we have elder care everywhere, and I will tell you, this was very challenging to place. And if there's any reason to respect your topography, this is one of the buildings that should be the reason why. So I tried to find a place to put this, and look at this. This is absolutely horrendous. This is the only place that I could actually fit this in, and it looks terrible. I think we've got to do better. All right, we've got this mostly repaired at this point, so I am going to let this go. So we'll move on to our hospitals, which is the next big thing. And we've got to think about this a little bit. So death care, we should be fine. We have a ton of capacity, and it's the one building that we've had pretty much throughout the entire community. Our healthcare, on the other hand, we began with this. We placed that one high capacity hospital last time, and then we have, I want to say that these are all large hospitals. So we've got one hospital here, another right here, then another one right here, and then we had a clinic somewhere over there. It's way too much. So we're going to move some of these hospitals. We can keep that one over here, and then we'll relocate this one. Again, the height of realism. We'll take that way over here. I'm sure that there has been at least a hospital administrator or two that wishes that they could just relocate their facility to a place that has more need. Just did it. Just did it. We're wizards. So we are going to place clinics in the other areas. This is not because I think that we need the capacity. I think that we're probably fine. We've got a lot of heal capacity. So we are going to place these simply for coverage and for land value purposes. So I am going to turn this thing off now, and I'm very nervous. So again, we'll take a look at our land values before we turn this off. We are at 56, and we'll turn this off and see where it goes. So it was 7, which is better than I was thinking it was going to be. And maybe that's just because of all the parks that we added. I do want to keep an eye on this though. And again, we're going to do the exact same thing that we did last time and let this thing go for a few minutes. It's still dropping a little bit. I just want to see if people start abandoning their homes because they now have to have healthcare. And we're going to start to see it. I'm guessing a couple of land value icons come up. Whoa. 1,000 people died. What is going on? This is wild. The lifespan fell. So I'm guessing that we have a whole bunch of old people and they just immediately died because we took out their healthcare. Our birth rate's actually up. Everyone's just dying or moving. I don't really. Wow, 1,600. We can see our land value plummeting across the board. We can see everyone's dying. We can see that everyone's moving. Keep an eye on these things. We're just going to need to let this shake out for a few minutes. All right, that was stressful, and we're gonna have a moment of honesty and intimacy right now, just you and me. I've tried this before, and I've killed the city. So I'm very surprised to see that not only have we stabilized the build, we've also gained 2,000 in population, which is one of my goals. There was a comment in the previous episode from Rye who said it'd be nice to bring the population back to what it was before we started the rebuild. And I want to do that. That's 112,000. That would be the ultimate end goal. We're not going to be able to do that within this current size of the city. We're going to have to expand it. We're going to have to redevelop. We're going to have to infill. But that is my goal, at least 100,000. If we can get to 100,000, I think that we've done something right. And I didn't expect that today we would help. But things appear to be okay. I do think we've got to just peruse on through and look at everything we've changed. And then I do want to do a little bit of that infill development and try to stabilize the city, respond to some of the demands a bit. But if we take a look, we've got some 6 sims. And I think that this is mainly noise. So we're going to take a look at that. If we take a look at our death care, it kept up. We have a crazy capacity, so we're good there. Our child health care, we're having 370 births per week. That's 100 more than we had before we got rid of the medical health center. And elder care, the age dropped. I will not lie. We've lost about 9 years life expectancy. That's not good. That's not good at all. And then looking at our education, what we're seeing is that, we actually are on the edge with our university capacity, our high school capacity. We have totally undershot it. So I've got to do something there. And I think that what we're going to do is think about a targeted high capacity high school. And then our elementary, we're on the edge there. We're probably fine. Let's see, for high capacity high school, we would need 2 of these to get even close to where we need to be. So we're going to do that. I will add one kind of on the edge of our downtown over here. So we'll place that right about here. And again, I don't want to get rid of any residential. Kind of a weird spot for a high school, but I'm sure it's very pretty. And then we'll add another one and we'll sneak that one maybe over here. That gets us close to where we need to be, but we're still 2,000 under. Folks are going to make their way through the system. And if we overbuild, we're going to need to decommission. This is always one of those things that even in real school districts, they're always thinking about. Like, they might know that they have overcrowding, but they are looking at the population projections 10 years down the line, trying to figure out if it actually makes sense to go ahead and build a school. In some cases, it just doesn't, because you know that your population of your city is going to shrink, or this big glut of kids is going to make its way through, and then you're going to have a high school that's way too big. So I am cautious. I'm going to probably build one more high school, and then we'll call it a day on that. We are going to add in, we're going to do a little bit of infill redevelopment and think a little bit more about some of the monuments over here. We've got our fusion power plant. We've also got the space elevator, and then we've got things like this observatory that we should move. So that's what we're going to focus on for the rest of the episode. So rather than having this fusion power plant over here, I think we're going to come way over here and build a nuclear power plant. So we'll look at our contours, and we're going to build this on the banks of the river, and we'll build it up. We're going to need, let's see how much we're going to need. Right now, we have 1,219 megawatts of power that's being consumed. Wow, that's going to put us right on the edge. So we would actually need the nuclear power plants plus one other power plant. Maybe we'll just have a number of nuclear power plants next to each other, and we'll have kind of a complex. I'm going to start out by drawing a road along the river, and we'll make this industrial. And then I'm going to add these power plants. And we'll just add 3 off the bat. That'll give us the overhead that we need on our capacity. And then I'm running this down because I want to have power behind this, or I want to have parking behind this rather. So we'll go in here and we'll grab our new parking facilities and run them all up and down. Now I'm going to Control H this to right here. We've disrespected the topography, and here's how we make amends. We try to create a new terrain. And now I want to connect this up. And the other consideration here is we have a big cul-de-sac with these. So we're going to need another outlet. And I don't think because of what we're building, it's not too much to ask for another bridge across the water. Then I'll run right in here. Kind of a weird spot in light of our forestry industry being right here, but I think it's going to work out just fine. And then we'll run this up here and loop this back around and soften that up just a little bit with the unified UI. Just love that. Just love that. I'm going to turn this into a highway here. No reason to stop or slow down as you're coming through here. And then we'll do the exact same thing across the water. So the one thing that I think we are going to change is I'm going to upgrade this. We'll use Move It to butt that over just a bit. And there we go. That seems like a reasonable solution in my estimation. We just need to get some power lines over here, and then we'll need to adjust our power budget because that is one of the things that we have been modifying with our fusion power plant. We're also going to want to take a look and just make sure that whatever our power situation looks like, we are actually bridged all the way across. I wouldn't want this to be a scenario where we think that we've connected our power and we haven't. So we'll go into our budget again, and you can see that we're turned way, way down. And we should have quite a bit of overhead. And from what I can tell, we've got power lines connecting up here, going all the way down. So let's just eliminate this. We're going to roll the dice and see where things go. And we actually have twice as much production as we need. Interestingly, I see that our consumption has dropped. So I don't know why we had that little spike there, but we could have gotten away with just having 2 of these. For the time being, I'm going to turn one of these off. We've already built the facility over here, so we might as well just leave it. We have the money for it as well. I am going to add in some paths through here, and then we'll young Lindenize these. Let's continue to make improvements in this area, getting rid of a couple more monuments. I want to fix the terrain here. We have no reason to have this gigantic lump. But I really, really despise that we have this large recycling center back here. It just does not fit in this area. It does not make sense. And it did not terraform. We just kind of shoved it back there is what it looks like. So I'm going to get rid of that. And this is going to turn into a fairly important and prominent residential area. I want to continue to work on getting our population built up. So this will be one of the ways that we're able to do that. But I'm going to add some residential uses back here. So we're concentrating these things in back here, but we've got schools, recreational opportunities. We've also got a bunch of noise. So let's see what's generating all of that noise. And it looks like it is a mixture. We did have all that noise coming from the recycling center, but we've also got a bunch of noise coming from this Grand Mall and from the Courthouse. I guess I'm more okay with the Courthouse being over here than the Grand Mall. So I think we're going to take the Grand Mall and move that somewhere else. My thought is maybe over here is a good location for it. And the reason for that is we've got a lot of office type uses over here. You figure that there are people who have high incomes due to their occupation working in IT. Maybe they want to go to the Grand Mall. So let's make this a little bit more suitable. I'm going to add in a bit of a roadway network through here. And then we'll take this high capacity high school and we're going to get that off from this collector over here. And then we'll take the Grand Mall. And I think that, this is probably good enough if we wanted to leave it like this. But I want to make the grid breakdown around it, show that this was redeveloped in place. The most interesting thing about this, I think, is that it makes it very challenging to do anything with this collector coming through, which maybe is for the best. Maybe it's completely fine. We'll do something like this. So we're still able to use some of that land. It's a little bit ugly. And this is where it's an iterative process at times. Yeah, I think I'm okay with this. So we will figure out how best to make all of this come together in just a moment, but that is a much more suitable location. And now with our courthouse, this is the kind of use that I wish I would have gotten in our downtown. We don't really have a great location for it over here, but I think we could make one right here if we were thoughtful about it. This is fairly flat. We're by the university, and that would seem to be a fine location for something like our courthouse. So I will take that and put that over here. There's not a lot of space. Might need to make our own terrain. Place that right here in the middle. All right, nothing all that fancy, but just a little something to give this a little bit more prominence, a little bit more order. I meant to have bushes and not all those young lindens. All right, so I'm a little bit more happy with this. Just made it look a little bit more decorative and gave that a presence. If we're not going to have it in a downtown area, you might as well give it the space it needs to breathe. And then we do have that power mod enabled right now, so I want to take full advantage of that. So what I mean is I think that we should add a couple of buildings back through here to try to get closer to our population milestone. So I'm going to check and see where we're at with our power. We can get this to jump if we are careful. And then right here, I'm going to add in some green cities buildings. We're going to stop this right about here. So I don't want this to go too far towards our arch, but we'll give folks little place to live through here. And I would really love to get some more residential through here. So we've got our university campus right here. It's not a great location from the standpoint of noise. There's going to be traffic noise, but there are destinations that I think people could want to live next to. And then we'll grade for just a couple of residential spaces over here. Not necessarily the height of realism, but it does make me quite happy. And sometimes you got to do things like that. And then I will get rid of some of these trees. We can always add these in after the fact, but it's nice to get rid of them up front so that we can manicure this ourselves. And then our zoning tiles aren't quite there yet, so I'm going to upgrade this road with Anarchy on, which will allow us to get the rest of our missing zoning tiles in there. And now we'll get this thing moving again. This is a little bit weird here, so I'll get rid of this. We just placed that there, but we're going to get rid of it right away, and we'll add a new power line connecting up our harbor to our university. So I like that a lot more. Let's pop back over here. We've got a couple more things to get rid of. And the next thing is going to be this lovely observatory. I want to find a way to get this into a suitable location. So this seems to be the place where maybe we are able to snake our way up. So I want to go with as narrow a road as possible. And we have these 2U alleys. Maybe that's not great. No, we'll go with this, the plain street. So I'm going to start here, and we'll need to use a whole lot of network multi-tool to make this look good, because I'm not going to go through the work of trying to get this to look good when we have our mods available to us. And I'm wondering, actually, perhaps this is as good a spot as any. And the reason why I say that is if we get over here, we get the lights of downtown potentially obstructing our views from the observatory. So I think that we're going to stop this and maybe add it right over here. So we are going to slope this out and get our terrain heights to work. And I love that there's already traffic heading up here. Where are you guys going? There's nothing up here to see. So that is pretty good for our road. Let's get our observatory moved into place. And I have a feeling this is going to make a number of you very happy. It makes me very, very happy. That said, I do not love the way it's pointing. So what we're going to do is run the road along the other end. And you know what? I think that this is pretty darn good. So we've flattened this out. Now it's pointing off in the distance. This area wouldn't be quite as bright. It could turn around though. There would be some obstruction from the towers downtown. It's not ideal. Maybe this is like the Griffith Park Observatory in LA, where I don't know if it's really used for a lot of scientific stuff or if it's really more meant to get people interested in science. But either way, it's an amenity that folks are really going to appreciate here. And the road coming up, it's intense. We're going to need to add some fences there. And for that, I think that we use our parallel road tool. Interestingly, I didn't realize that you could park on this. I'm okay with it. It's just one of those things that I don't think I was fully aware of. We're going to add our nature reserve fences. They're always kind of nice for roads like this. And we'll start that right about here and try to keep that on the side of the road that would keep you from falling off, basically. And there we go. Not the most elaborate configuration. We could probably use some parking up here as well. But I'll tell you what, it's perfectly fine compared to what we had before. And last but not least, we have our space elevator. And this is another one of those facilities that, in my mind, doesn't make a ton of sense right here. I don't know where it makes a ton of sense, if I'm being honest with you, but I think that we're going to try to make up a location. And I'm going to place it most likely somewhere close to our airport. I don't know that makes sense, like I said, but we'll roll with it. In terms of the location by the airport, I think we're going to try to sneak it in maybe right here. We'll need some retaining walls to make it work. We'll need to flatten out a pad, but I think that we can make something happen here. And I'm going to use Move It to grab it because we are going to place it in a location where it shouldn't be suitable. All right, so I've improved the slope here from what it was just a moment ago. So basically, we're at about 7% right here. It's fine. We will live with this. And then I want to put a retaining wall along here so that we don't see all of this craziness. So I will select our key wall, and then we'll use our parallel road tool, and we'll start that from right about here. All right, so what we've basically done here is we've added a road so that folks coming through here would have the ability to walk down this way. It looks like I've extended the highway a bit too, or the local road a bit too much, so we'll convert that back. And this is the freight route, so now we've given the freight access to come through here. Maybe we shouldn't have that, truthfully, now that I think about it. What we're going to do is we're going to convert this, get rid of that. I'll make this a pedestrian route over the top. And then I'm holding down Alt to keep this in place. And I'm going to create a pedestrian path right over the top. And now I want to catch a freight vehicle through here. Yeah, we're fine. I'm not going to lower it anymore, but this is fine. And 13 is pretty rough. I know that, but we're going to have to live with just a bit of imperfection in this area. There we go. And now that we've got this, we can see what it looks like. And I think it's pretty outstanding. And what we're going to see is eventually we're going to have transit service running through here, or at least the ability to walk over to a bus over in this location. But now we got people, they're walking to their cars. There's a hotel that they could stay at, and there's tons of parking right here as well. So we're using this for multiple purposes. And look at that, our population's at 82, which is great because the last thing that I want to do today is look at some of these locations and start to infill with uses that make a bit more sense. And then as we're over here, maybe even deep dive a little bit into some of these things that we just placed over here. This is one of those places where I think that we just need to give this a little bit more thought. So we'll take the high school and relocate that with our anarchy off. And I want to do something a little bit different here in terms of the theme. So what we're going to do is carve out a new district. We might as well. We've already done something totally different here. And the other place this could benefit us is we were having some of those noise concerns. I think we're going to switch some of these buildings into a different type, and hopefully that will help us resolve some of these issues. And I want to use some wall-to-wall buildings here. So we'll use both wall-to-wall for residential and commercial. Why don't we use office as well, and we'll sprinkle in some office buildings through here. And that'll be a way to kind of resolve some of those noise concerns that we have. And there's a desire for both office and commercial, so we should be just fine with that. Now, to resolve the concerns right here, I'm just going to take out every few buildings and switch it to an office. This is a way to also have mixed use. And then I want to break up the roadway network through here a little bit further. And this will be a way that we maximize the amount of space that we can develop through here. And if this were being redeveloped like this, I would fully expect that you would see additional roads going through here, or larger buildings, larger projects that would fill up these larger blocks. So this is the way that we will simulate that. And I generally don't like 1U buildings, but I'm going to add some through here and we'll just see what comes of it. The last thing I want to do is I want to use the create connection mode to make a new roadway segment between these two roadway networks. So we're just going to pull this in. We'll make this smaller and slide this out. And we'll go for some residential uses tucked in back here as well. And I just want to make sure that our district extends over. It does not. So we'll pull this on over. And truthfully, I like that transition in densities. So we're going to pull this all the way over. Now I'm going to let this run and we'll see what we get out of this. And while this is filling in, I want to pop on over to this little area right here, because this is the other area of concern that I have. So I want to, we have this IT cluster district here. We're going to increase the density of both the commercial and the residential. For the residential, we're going to go with our self-sufficient buildings. And then over here, I'm going to create a new district where we go with some of our wall-to-wall, and that will be how we transition our densities. So while all of this is dezoning, I'm going to change the density. And through here, we will switch this over to commercial. I am almost thinking that we should cut this district off here. I'm going to pull this one over. I'm going to make a new district. So that'll cover just this area. And for our commercial in this area, we'll use our mall buildings. So that, again, will provide for that transition in densities. And the main reason I care about that is right here. I think that it'd be nice to have those around here. Obviously, we're going to need to fill these in a bit. It's going to be a kind of an interesting looking situation right there. And then in this area, we will preserve this as green space, which is something that's always at such a premium in these dense urban areas. And just a little park, not anything all that extravagant. And then I want to go through and repair some of this zoning. This is multiple destructions worth of zoning, everything kind of getting off kilter as a result of that. So it's always nice to go back through and clean things up as you come through. And then with that, I think I'm going to let these couple of areas fill in a bit. These are the two that I'm most interested in at this point in time. So we're going to let this run for just a couple of minutes, and then we will see where this all shakes out. All right, let's pop in and take a look and see what we are going to have through here. And honestly, this to me feels okay. Maybe we could have more density back here. I don't know. Why don't you let me know in the comments? Should I take the lid off here and go with some higher density buildings? Obviously, these wall-to-wall buildings are just a little bit lower. They're that mid-rise that is kind of ubiquitous in larger cities. That said, I get it. I heard through here that there were some folks who wish that they would have been a little bit more height, and I'm considering it. Over here, I think that we're seeing that transition. You could almost draw a line from the tallest buildings down to the shorter buildings, which is something that's been sorely missing in cities' skylines. This is what I've wanted to see, that transition in densities. Truthfully, we should probably have some mid-rise right here instead of these single family homes. considering we have some lower rise office here, but I'm okay with this. It makes sense the way that it's transitioning down. So obviously this is going to fill in and it's going to take a little bit of time, but we're improving our population. We're going to be up to about 83,000. And before we go and finish and look at our city tour, there's one thing I want to do, and it's respond to a couple of comments. And first up is a comment from TB17 on the Patreon about the area that we created in the previous episode. I created a big cul-de-sac, but my intention was actually to not cul-de-sac this. And if we were going to do that, we would need to take Winston Street right here and send it into Ivy. I didn't do that. Instead, I brought this into Charles Street, and Charles Street is a cul-de-sac. So this will still be a little bit of a dangerous area if we do this, because you got two roads. If for whatever reason this got cut, you're sending everyone up this way, but it still would have options if we were to connect this up right here. So we're going to do that quickly. And there we go. We have de-cul-de-saced that. So thank you so much, TB, for this suggestion. That was a very good one. The next one is a comment that I saw a few different times, and it's going to help us with what we're trying to accomplish today. And it's basically that this cathedral is way too beautiful to hide back behind this gigantic tower. And the tower is casting shadows on it and on the baseball field, so it would make sense to switch these two locations. So we're going to do that. I love that feedback. And that's exactly what I was hoping to hear from you guys. That sort of feedback. Holy cow. We are creating all sorts of landscaping problems because I left Anarchy on. Shoot. That always stinks to do. So hopefully I don't encroach too much upon the Sears Tower. I got lucky. I got real lucky. All right. So what I'm going to do is get rid of this right here. We're going to get rid of that road entirely. And then we'll move our tower over there. We'll put that in the center of that block. And I think, yeah, it's fine with that. I'm going to use move it to get this path where it should be. We'll need to get rid of a couple of trees through here. So that's it for the cathedral. And I think that this is a very nice change. We'll get rid of this bit of landscaping we have there. And now I think you'd have an excellent view from this building. And this isn't lording over it. And that's not a pun I meant to have. But there you go. And now we will add just a couple of paths through here. And now when we take a look at the skyline, it does feel like the transition is a little bit better. So I really appreciate that feedback. And with that, we have one more thing to do. We need to take inventory of what we've done and have a brief city tour. All right, and I think that we are really starting to move in a good direction. And I know I've said this before, but I think we're finally ready for our transit build. Now that we've got all those monuments out of here, the city's actually functioning the way that it should be functioning. So let's take a look at our traffic flow and see where we're at. 82%. I think that we can be fairly pleased with 83%. That's not bad. And we should take a look at all of our different city services, and we see that education, we are basically in the middle. We could probably use some more high school capacity. Here's that overbuilding I talked about, that other high school that we added. We didn't really need that. University, we're below. We might want to do something about that. For healthcare, we are okay. Average health 75, death care we're still hovering around 100. That's fine. Wow, we're really picking up with our birth rate. We're up to 424 births a week. And our elder care, we're still at a lifespan of 75 years, so slight improvement from before. So things are getting better. And our population is one of those things. We've got people moving in like crazy. It's the slow march, to 100,000. And hopefully by the end of the series, we can reach 112. So I think that what we're going to do is leave it here. And in the next one, we will focus on transit. And we are going to continue to build our population. That's going to be something that we do for the last couple episodes of this series. And I hope that you've enjoyed this. If you did, please consider hitting the like button. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. And I really can't wait to see you in the next one. Thank you so much for joining me today. It is a privilege to be able to bring these videos to you, and I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.